Most people think the real painting begins when the color appears, but it doesn't. In this video, I'm building the second layer of my underpainting, pushing shadows, refining values, sharpening focus, and making the forms feel three-dimensional. Because color may get all the attention, but value is doing the dirty work. As always, the first step is oiling out. In the first layer, I didn't really oil out the surface, but for this next stage, I want the paint to be more workable. I want to push the underpainting further, refine the forms, and start building more detail. So, as usual, I'm using my 50-50 mix of OMS and linseed oil. I apply it with a brush only to the area where I'm going to paint, and then I wipe it back almost completely dry. So why am I actually doing a second layer of the underpainting? Wouldn't one layer be enough? Couldn't this already work as a base for the next stage? And honestly, yes, it could. At this point, I could move straight into color if I wanted to. It would work. But I would have to accept that the values in the underpainting are not where I want them yet. After the first layer, everything is still too light. Raw umber is naturally transparent, and because I thinned it down, I simply can't build the really dark areas yet, for example, that deep dark background. Also, the transitions are not refined enough, and that's normal. It's very hard to get everything perfect in the very first pass. Look, for example, at this little jug. The 3D feeling is not really there yet. We have some light and shadow, yes, but not enough halftones, not enough shadow core, not enough subtle turning of the form. In short, it is not modeled yet the way I want the final painting to be modeled. So if I went straight into color now, I would have to solve all of that in the color layer. The background would need to be much darker, so I would have to mix a much darker color than what I see in the underpainting right now. Because underpainting is really all about value, I created a free tool to help painters see their light and shadow structure much more clearly. Just go to m8paintingtools.com, upload your painting or reference photo, and try the value map or value picker. The value map simplifies the image into clear value zones, so you can instantly see if your lights, shadows, and midtones are working. And with the value picker, you can click on any area of the image and check exactly how light or dark it is. These tools are very simple, but they can reveal problems you might completely miss while painting. Areas that are too flat, too bright, too dark, or not separated enough. Try it for free at m8paintingtools.com. If the underpainting is already a very close version of the final image, the next layers become much easier. The values are already in place, so I don't have to fight with them later in the color stage. And there is another advantage. When you look through the layers of the painting, the values remain consistent from layer to layer. I've mentioned this several times before, but I think it's really important. If the value in each area stays the same across the layers, the whole painting becomes more stable visually and structurally. It also reduces the risk that something will shift in the future, for example, that some area might darken unexpectedly in the light, because every layer is supporting the same value structure underneath. So for me, this second underpainting layer is not just extra work, it is the skeleton becoming stronger. Now that the surface is oiled out, I'm not trying to repaint everything from scratch. In this second layer, I'm mainly correcting the value structure. I'm looking for places that are still too light, too flat, or not clearly modeled enough. So my focus is not more detail, just for the sake of detail. My focus is form. Where does the object turn away from the light? Where is the halftone? Where is the shadow core? Where does the reflected light begin? These are the questions I'm asking while I work, and this is why underpainting is so powerful. You can solve these problems without being distracted by color. In the original setup that I arranged and photographed, there was just a regular drinking glass in the background. Later, I decided to replace it with this carafe, because the shape is much more elegant and compositionally, it works much better in the painting. So I added it afterward, drawing it carefully into the exact position where I wanted it to sit. Now in this layer, I'm darkening it quite strongly. Basically, I'm taking a larger brush and moving across the whole area of the carafe, while at the same time also deepening the background around it. And that makes sense, because the carafe is made of clear glass. It doesn't really have a strong local color of its own. What we mostly see is the background showing through it, slightly altered by the thickness of the glass, the curves of the form, and the way the light moves across the surface. So at this stage, I'm not trying to fully describe the glass yet. Later on, the carafe will become visible mainly through the play of light, reflections, highlights, subtle shifts in value, and those small optical effects that make glass feel like glass. But for now, I'm building the darker structure first. I want the carafe to remain present, but I do not want it to jump out too aggressively. That is very important here, because this object sits in the background. It is part of the composition, but it is not the main actor. So I'm working in a way that allows me to keep the contours I established earlier, without making them too obvious. I don't want to lose the shape completely, but I also don't want to outline it too much. This is where restraint becomes important. With glass, especially in the background, too much definition can kill the effect. If I make every contour hard and every part equally visible, the glass will stop feeling transparent. It will start to feel like a cutout shape pasted onto the background, and that is exactly what I want to avoid. So I'm letting parts of the contour stay very quiet. Some edges can almost disappear. Some transitions can stay soft. Some areas are only suggested by a slight value shift rather than a clear line. And that is often enough. Because glass is one of those things in painting that works best when you do not explain too much all at once. You suggest it, you build it gradually, you let the eye discover it. So here, while I'm darkening the carafe, I'm really preparing the stage for those later light effects. I'm creating the dark body first, so that later the reflections and highlights will have something to play against. In a way, painting glass is a little bit like painting light trapped inside a shape. And right now, I'm still building the shape. Toward the end of this stage, I'm also finishing the background around the flowers. As you can see, some of these areas are still too light from the first layer, so I need to bring them closer to the rest of the painting. The diagonal line of light in the background is still relatively sharp here, but later, in the color layers, I'm planning to adjust that transition between light and shadow and make the edge softer than it is in the underpainting. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, I'm still working inside this second underpainting layer, trying to bring everything as close as possible to the final value structure. In the next few minutes, you'll see me finishing small details, jumping back and forth across the painting, and adjusting whatever still needs a little tuning. A darker value here, a softer transition there, a contour correction, a small detail refined, a background area pushed back, a foreground form brought slightly forward. At this stage, I'm basically looking for anything that can still be improved. Not because every square inch needs to be overworked, but because the goal of classical layered painting is to make each stage support the next one as much as possible.
And that's all for today, my mates. If you would like to see the full version of this process, you can join my YouTube channel membership, Old Masters tier, where you will find this complete video workshop along with many others I've created for you. And if you want to go even deeper, you can also join me, of course, on my Patreon, where I share more in-depth content, extended lessons, and additional workshops designed to help you take your painting further. You can also visit my website, matemerch.com, if you are looking for some cool art merch, prints, and more. And if you decide to grab something, don't forget to use code M8SALE at the checkout for 10% off your entire order. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. Thanks for watching, my mates, and see you in another video. Bye bye.